welcome to day number 4 of the 28 Days of Freedom Mastery series. I am so glad that you made it here in this journey and have walked with me here these last couple of days, and I just want to welcome you and thank you. And for those of you who are just joining us for the first time, my name is Roger, founder and CEO of Trivision Global and creator of the Atomic Minute. And today we're going to unpack the S in our D squared ARPS protocol. And so get your favorite motion potion, your digital notepads, and get ready as I unpack for you the S. If you haven't already done so, go back and watch videos 1 through 3, because each one of these concepts really builds on one another, and you want to make sure that you have that foundational part in first as we start to cover the S in our D squared protocol. So in video 1, we began to discuss and talk about the dark forces that are operating in our lives, trying to prevent us and keep us from enjoying the freedom that we were created to experience. And in our second video, the second D, the D squared, DA, was dream architecture. You know, if you don't have a dream, it's very difficult to enjoy your life. As Gail Hyatt has shared at one point, that when people lose their why, they lose their way. And in that first video, we discussed briefly how to entreat and tap into God and seek Him for the vision that He has for your life. As the scripture tells us, "For I know the thoughts and the plans that I have for you." And so God's got a dream for you that He wants you to steward while you're here on the earth. The third video, we really shared with you why it's so important to actually accept and acknowledge what God did for you through Jesus Christ, and how critical it is, because you can use everything that we're discussing here in of itself, by itself, and get some results. But you're not going to get the significant results, the impact that you could if you were properly plugged in to the family, the spiritual family of God. Like I said in one of the videos, your cell phone, you can use it for a while, but if you don't plug it back into the source, it's not going to be charged up. And the whole idea of being able to walk in freedom is to recognize, the scriptures tell us that where we are gathered together and Christ is present, there's freedom, there's liberty. So you're never going to experience freedom, true freedom, unless you take that step in that journey. And then in the second part of the video 3, day 3, we unpacked for you reverse planning and how significant it is to have a general map of where you're going. And of course, we didn't reveal all the steps, and we talked about it because you're on an adventure, right? You're never going to know all of the steps that you're going to take. And so, but you do need to have a general plan, and that reverse planning strategy that we talked about is so important. So today, in today's video, we're going to unpack the S. And the S is so important because it really distinguishes the difference between the winners from the losers, the achievers from the failures. And it's really overlooked and neglected, and it's something that you want to understand, you want to grasp. It's a master key to realizing the good life that God has created you to enjoy, but it's often overlooked because there's people that like to hang on that scripture that says that a man plans his ways, but God directs his steps, and it sort of gives them permission to not plan for their lives. And part of a plan is what we're going to talk about today in the S, which is strategy. Now, I know it sounds odd, but strategy, you know, the corporate world has made strategy seem so big and so sophisticated and complicated that the average person doesn't understand it. And for our purposes, what we're going to talk about today is there is a simple approach to strategy. while we'll touch on it here, we go much deeper into strategy, really unpack it and analyze it and look at it, and then learn how to use it in our 28 Days to Freedom course. But for now, strategy is something that enables you to not only recognize where you are and where you want to go, but it also takes into consideration the obstacles you're going to have, the barriers that you're going to have trying to get to where you want to go, as well as takes into consideration the critical factors for success. So if you recall in our third video, and we touched on it briefly, going to Hawaii, let's just look at it. For example, going to the airport, right? In the morning, if you're going to head to Hawaii, one of the first steps that you're going to need to do after you unpack and all that, and you're heading to the airport, is you're going to kind of develop a strategy. And a lot of times we do this, like I said, subconsciously and naturally. But so let's say use the example of heading to the airport in your car. And one of the critical success factors for you to get to the airport successfully is that you have a reliable form of transportation. Without that, you're not going to be able to make it. Whether you're going to be taking an Uber or you're driving your own car, that critical success factor is you have a reliable form of transportation. Now, one of your barriers, the barrier might be, for example, that that you might have traffic along the way, right? Or what happens if the car breaks down, right? That's why it's so important, the critical success factor, but also understanding the barrier. Once you have the critical success factor and the barrier that you may come up against, now you can start developing a strategy. So for example, let's say that the barrier is traffic. So what you're going to do in your mind or on paper or whatever is you're going to realize, hey, if there's traffic at any one of these points, I can get off prior to the road, prior to that traffic, and go around it. I know myself, I've been guilty of this. I get in the car and I go, and then all of a sudden we encounter traffic, and I think to myself, gosh, if I would have planned a little bit sooner, I could have got off on that road back there and been able to go around this. And so strategy is really important, but it's so critical. I mean, if, for example, you can have look at it from a sports perspective, you can have two teams that are equally skilled and equally equipped, and the one that wins is the one that has the best strategy. If you recall, if you haven't seen it, there's a great movie. It's called Miracle. I think Kurt Russell stars as the coach. He represents the coach on the U.S. Olympic team that was back during the 1980 Lake Placid Olympics, where the U.S. hockey team competed against the Russian hockey team. Now, the Russian hockey team was unbeatable. It was like they'd won 20 games to 1. They'd been winning the Olympics since 1964, and these guys were unstoppable. They were soldiers. I mean, these guys were true, hard soldiers, warriors that were playing hockey, and they were undefeatable. And here comes this young hockey team, mostly college kids, that were competing against these guys. And if I'll make a clip at the bottom of the video here for you to catch just some of the little tidbits of that movie. But I mean, the Russian team didn't think these guys were going to be able to even compete with them. But yet Herb, which was the coach's name, Herb Brooks, I believe it was, had a strategy that he employed, something new that had never been done before. And he employed that strategy, executed that strategy with his players, and as a result, they beat the Russian hockey team, which nobody thought could be. Even the investors that were getting behind him didn't think his approach would work, but they took a risk and they went for it and they invested in him, and sure enough, they ended up winning. It was incredible. And looking throughout history, right, we see during World War II what distinguished the winners from the losers was the strategy that was deployed. And so I want to invite you and encourage you to use strategy in realizing your dream for freedom. Where you are right now is not where you're going to be for the rest of your life. But if you don't make active, on purpose steps, you're going to find yourself where you are now, and worse, maybe even more frustrated. But if you do a study in the scriptures, just using the word plans, you're going to be quite amazed just at how important planning is and strategy is. But as I was driving down, there was a talk show host, and he was talking to a financial advisor and investment advisor. One of the things that he said was the most difficult group for me to help are those people of the faith, Christians, because they have this idea that everything will be taken care of, and while they have a good job and they've got income coming in and everything is taken care of at that moment, they don't realize the importance of a good plan of how to use the resources they've been given, they're being given at that point, how to strategize and use those resources so that they have them available to them when they get to their later years in life. And it's like that with anything. My mentor Jim Rohn used to tell me casualness leads to casualties. And so if we're casual about our life, if we're casual about the purpose and the destiny for which we've been created, we're going to get casual results. So I want to invite you and encourage you to begin to incorporate strategy. I've got a PDF download on this link that kind of gives a rough map of what we talked about today, and it's a fillable form so you can fill it in, and on that map you'll see how there's a vision. You've got to have a vision first, which is what we talked about, and we also talked about reverse planning, how to reverse engineer your destiny. But from that reverse engineering approach, once you see the steps, now you can start to develop a strategy around that. And so, as you can tell, today I'm a little windy, but I'm wearing my adventure hat. And the reason I'm wearing my adventure hat is I want to invite you on an adventure with us. If you've gotten some value out of our series of videos here, if you have found them helpful, I want to invite you to join us on our live webinar coming up to go a little bit deeper, so that you can take these concepts, and you can take the material that we're going to be presenting during our live webinar coming up. You can take them and really start to see the significant results in your life and experience the freedom you were destined to create. I'm going to take a cut here for a minute and then kind of unpack for you the live webinar, what we're going to be covering during that webinar, and then we'll come back and I'll sign off with you.
All right, so here we are in my mobile office. I'm here in the Ambassadors Club, or the Admirals Club here in Chicago, so forgive the background noise if it starts to interfere. I just wanted to kind of go over real quickly here with you the live webinar that we're going to be doing on September the 26th at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time and 8 p.m. in Greenwich Mean Wich Time or London. So I want to just kind of go over with you here what we're going to be covering during this live program, because the objective here is to really help you take what you've learned in these 4 Freedom to Mastery series videos that we've done and really kick it up to the next level and really effectively implement what you're learning. So as I mentioned, we're going to provide this live webinar on September the 26th, and I'm going to be joined with Dr. Cheryl Ann Needham. Dr. Cheryl Ann is a thought leader, a speaker, and author, and she's been a strategic advisor for more than 20 years. Her and her husband founded Steward Now, where she advised a diverse clientele ranging from individuals to corporate boardrooms in both the business and the ministry on specific strategies and processes and even inventions for clients serving in a variety of sectors like natural resources, oil, gold, gems, energy, media, aviation, Fortune 1000 services, biotechnology, health services, agriculture, technology, government, and just so many more. What's exciting though is she really helps provide target clarity for individuals and leaders with big visions and decision-making certainty to these leaders that when they're at crossroads and executing their dream. And She's also a frequent speaker, trainer, and guest on both television and radio. She served as the corporate sector as an organizational development consultant for 16 years, and she received her PhD in business Christian entrepreneurship from Christian University of Southern Indiana, and she has a MED from Wayne State University and a mini MBA in marketing from St. Thomas University, as well as a BS in communication from University of Wisconsin. She also, interestingly, is an ordained minister, and she's authored her latest book, Sound Alignment, back in 2012, but it was so popular that she re-released it, calling it Sound Alignment 2.0 back in 2016. So she trains in a variety of topics impacting the development of leaders and preparing the bride for the return of Christ. And what's so exciting is the wisdom that she's gathered over those years is going to be joining me as we cover some very critical points, but also joining me is going to be our special guest, Terry Foote. Terry Foote lives in Alabaster, Alabama with her husband, Bill. They're parents of 5 daughters, grandparents to 10 grandchildren and 2 great-grandchildren. She's been a Christian for 57 years, and she's walked in numerous ministry experiences for more than 40 years. And in her latest endeavor of about 13 years, she was the founder of Freedom Ministries of Shelby County. Now, through her work, and this is where it's critical with Freedom Ministries, Terry's seen thousands of people changed and set free through her inner healing and deliverance processes. She developed this program for a conventional type deliverance that's easy to follow with God's Spirit, but because of what God has taught her about deliverance, the days of unpleasant manifestations are gone. A lot of times a common comment from her clients after a session is, "I feel lighter." And God's really given her spiritual insight that speaks to the specific individual needs of individuals. And why I'm bringing these two people together with myself is I really want to help set you free. And so one of the first points we're going to be talking about is how to demolish those chains that are holding your destiny hostage. You see, we all have habits and behaviors that are counterproductive to our success, and we're going to shed light on what's happening and how to stop it. But we're also going to talk about the 7 pillars you have to have in place to realize any goal or dream. Now, these pillars are similar to a building that hold it up. Just like a physical building, if you don't have that proper support in place, the structure won't stand. And the same goes for your life. If you don't have the right pillars in place, your life doesn't work out and it doesn't stand the way that it should. We're also going to discuss 4 keys every person really has to master to realize their destiny. These are keys that unlock and open doors, they're mindsets, if you will, and without them, you really end up staying locked outside of your destiny. And of course, we're going to cover 7 core needs that you have to have in order to prevent you from falling back into your old patterns, behaviors, and habits. Now, you see, we were created with 7 specific core needs, and they've got to be met the right way, because if you don't, you're never going to enjoy the freedom of life that you were destined to walk in. And of course, we're also going to be talking about how to identify what's been stopping you. Many times what keeps us from walking in our destinies are these hidden areas that seem to just escape our understanding. We can see the symptoms, but we fail to identify what the cause is. And during this webinar, we're going to begin to show you how to shine that light and uncover those obstacles. So I want to encourage you to register for this live webinar and do so quickly, because we really only have about 500 seats on our webinar system. They're going to be available, and spaces are going to fill up quickly. And we're going to be sharing this with a rather large community, both online and in our tribal community. And so if you want to participate in this program, you want to register quickly and to avoid missing out, because once we send out the notification, it's the first 500 people that sign up and register, that's pretty much going to lock everybody else out. So it will fill up because we're going to be talking about never before discussed insights that have been hidden and kept away from the mass public. And so it's going to fill up fast, and as a result, usually it's because people are so desperate to understand what's been holding them back that they want to participate. So again, claim your spot below. Just enter your name and your email in the registration form, and you're going to get taken to a welcome page. And there on that welcome page, we're going to share with you some tips on what you can do to get the most out of the webinar and you're also going to get a series of emails that will reinforce and prepare you for that webinar. So again, I look forward to seeing you on the other side, and until we meet face to face on our live webinar, just may your journey continue onward and upward. Goodbye for now. God bless, and bye-bye.
So now you have a chance to kind of get an idea what we're going to be covering on the live webinar. I hope you'll join us. As we part, let me have some final thoughts with you here. You know, we covered some great material here to help you understand what enables people to experience a life of joy, a life of peace, a life of contentment. And you know, the reality is if you don't apply these areas to your life, you don't understand these concepts, you're not going to really experience the true freedom and life that you long for. But the final thing I want to share with you, which we touched on at the very beginning, is what we call the Ab Aeterno method. Now, Ab Aeterno is a Latin word, and it really means from the beginning of time, or from eternity, right? Like it's always been around since the beginning of eternity. And it really is a threefold process that is used to help you enter into God's presence, to hear from heaven. Because you see, like I said, you can use any one of these concepts, any one of these particular steps in the protocol method to begin making improvements in your life. They all work, but they work much better when you learn how to tap into and enter into God's presence and hear from Him. When you're being infused with His direction and His power, you're going to be able to much more effectively, and in reality, the only way is to have His presence to overcome the dark forces in your life. When you start doing dream architecture, we can, in of ourselves, in our own soul, kind of get a dream or think of something we'd like to do and go after it. But it's not going to have the impact that it would, not going to have the sustaining power that it would, unless you received your vision, your dream from the Father Himself. Him revealing to you what He created you for and why you're here and what you're supposed to accomplish and steward. You're going to find it difficult to reverse plan without His input, right? I mean, He's the creator of the universe. He knows how everything works. He knows the challenges that you've got coming up ahead. He knows everything that you're going to encounter. And so when you tap into His presence and you seek Him, He then is able to give you the guidance and the direction that you need during the reverse planning process. And then finally, the strategy, right? Who better to tap into to seek for His counsel and His wisdom for your strategy? We can see it all throughout the scriptures. One famous battle is the walls of Jericho, right? They sought God, and God gave them a unique strategy of going around the city 7 times and blowing the trumpets. And you know, while it seemed odd, it was a strategy that He employed that even the enemy were mocking them, thinking they were ridiculous, and then all of a sudden the walls came down and they conquered the city. And so the Ab Aeterno method really is a threefold process of, first of all, understanding in the first part is what is the protocol to enter into God's presence? What's the way to do it is the first section. The second part of the Ab Aeterno method really is understanding how to enter into His presence and what is required on your part to do. And then the third part of it really is birthed out of understanding it's about relationship, right? I talked about it in a previous video elsewhere. We call it the 7 P's of dysfunction. You know, people go from their parking lot with their problems into the pews where they sit there waiting for an invitation to go up for prayer to the pulpit. They then come back to the pews, they go back to the parking lot with the problems, never getting the answer. And the reason is because we don't stick around to wait and hear from God. So we unpack this considerably more in our 28 Days to Freedom class course. And so again, I want to invite you to come and join us on the live webinar, and I think you'll find some tremendous value. So I just want to say again, thank you for joining me on this journey, the 28 Days to Freedom Mastery Series. I hope you found them helpful and interesting, and you got a lot of value from today's program as well. And until we meet again personally, just remember to continue your journey towards life, towards freedom, onward, as I like to say, onward and upward. And I'll look forward to meeting you on our live webinar. So talk to you later, and bye-bye for now. Sometimes when we talk about going on a journey or on an adventure, it can be a challenge because the life that we've known, we've grown comfortable with it, and in that life, that realm of comfort, when something new is presented to us, it challenges and can have the potential of disrupting that level of comfort, but we're never truly satisfied with that level of that life of comfort, because in the inside we know there's more. We know that there's a deeper purpose, and so we struggle when an invitation is presented to us. And I've made some videos below to kind of outline that struggle. If you watch the movies, The Hobbit, you'll see, he was given an invitation to adventure, and he didn't want anything to do with it in the first video. In the second video, he now is contemplating, well, if I go on this adventure, will I come back? And the response basically was, you may not, you may, but if you do come back, he wanted to guarantee that you could come back, and he couldn't have that guarantee. And but it was told is, if you do come back, you're not going to be the same person. And he said, that's what I thought. And then in the final video, he finally accepts his call to adventure. And so I know we've talked about it, we've hinted at it, but I'm inviting you to a journey of adventure. This is your call to adventure, to expand your life, to experience the fullness of why you were created, why you were placed on this earth, and the purpose with which you have, and what you're being asked to steward. And I know that can be scary sometimes. So I want, like I said, just encourage you to take a step of faith and join us on our live webinar, where we'll unpack for you some of the strategies that you're going to need to employ, both in your mindset as well as in your day-to-day routines. And so again, just register for the webinar, and look forward to seeing you on this adventure during this journey towards freedom. So again, it was a pleasure and it's such an honor, and we'll talk to you later.